Well, I love art, I love music, I love kids. I worked for 18 years with special needs kids as a paraprofessional, and I have worked as a foster mother in a children's ranch and raised 4 of my own. I love children. I remember in kindergarten, they had an easel with a big sheet of paper, and we had these great big brushes with tempera paint on them. And I was just like, wow, I love that. I joined the plein air group a dozen years ago or so, and I've learned a lot from those people. So it's been an adventure. The forest is a place of peace for me. I do a number of works that are what I call my Whimsical Woods series. And this one is kind of playing off of that with gnarly trees, and usually I have elves or crows or something. I just thought that might work with the violin, with landscape. I was a little worried at first because I'm most comfortable with watercolor, and then I discovered the watercolor ground to cover it with. It creates, when you've got kind of a grain, paint wants to run into that if I'm not careful. So initially, I sanded this and then put this Daniel Smith watercolor ground that I had discovered on it so that I could continue with watercolor and gouache, which is opaque water medium. And again, the shape, trying to wrap this around. I thought about doing something separate, like the flowers, whatever, but I thought it'd be cooler to make it wrap around. It's been a challenge in that regard because you have to keep checking. These are the initial templates that I drew. There's 2 of them. It's kind of similar to having to work with a sculpture. I've done some large sculpture works that created their own challenges, and I kept thinking of Michelangelo. Somewhere in all this glued together foam is the gorilla I'm trying to bring out, And that's kind of true of this. I was trying to make the landscape come out of the violin, and it helped not to have your fingerboard down there. All my kids were pretty musical, and if it hadn't been for a neighbor, another young man who lived next door and gave him some lessons. Without art, without music, and those things, the world would just be a chaotic, unforgiving, terrible place to have to live. When you have your own little corner of the world, you can only do what you can do with a string or 4 or 5 strings, or with your brush and your paints.